All right. Thank you everyone for joining our webinar today, where we're going to talk about the BESPIN Design Studio and what we've been up to. We hope that this presentation gives you a lot of good insight into the wins that we've had so far and improving how user experience works within the Air Force. So a little bit about this webinar. It's mostly geared towards a government audience. However, we have tried to include some content to make it worthwhile for vendors as well. And as always, we're always looking out for teaming partners, partnerships on contracts, things like that. So just be aware that some of the content may not be directly relevant to a non-government audience, but industry should still get a lot of benefits out of attending today. A couple things that we're going to walk you all through. Just the current state of design in the Air Force, a little bit about the BESPIN software factory and how the design studio fits in, the capabilities that we can currently offer organizations within the Air Force, a couple wins that we've had, and lastly, how you can work with the BESPIN Design Studio. So design in the Air Force. When we started this journey, we had this vision where we wanted to imagine a world where airmen had, cohesive, high quality touch points across all Air Force systems. Teams are able to move quickly and design with speed and quality at scale. And we really wanted airmen to experience great technology in their military world, the way that they experience great technology on their personal devices. And our goals are that if we're able to, push towards that world, the Air Force would experience outcomes like these: increased airman engagement, productivity, and retention, a higher capacity for innovation, more mission impact and success, compliance with design-related federal mandates, and all those things lead to competitive war-fighting superiority in the 21st century. But why does that world not exist today? What's preventing us from having this, be our reality right now? Well, the reason is that most of our technology probably looks something like this. So this is an application called REMIS. It stands for the Reliability and Maintainability Information System. And the way to think about this is when you go to get your car serviced at the car mechanic probably has an iPad where they can schedule service for your car, see what parts are in stock, things like that. Well, REMIS does that same thing, but for the Air Force. So when REMIS came to us, some of the problems they were facing is that users were complaining about usability. There was a high cost of training. There was no documentation. The product had a ton of nuances. For example, in certain fields, you had to add like 4 or 3 zeros at the end of a number to make it work. And a lot of the original knowledge of when this product was built was lost like more than 10 years ago. So people figured out how this worked by looking at the code under the hood. They didn't have design support on the team, and they didn't have the right tech stack to modernize their front end. So they had a ton of problems, but no idea on how to fix it or had the funding. And they wanted to move to this world where their organization could be more nimble and innovate quickly. So they came and asked for help from us. So we went in, we validated their existing user research. We mapped out areas where we could deliver value quickly to start building some momentum. We worked with their engineers, showed them how to work with the designer, and they got to actually do true agile instead of some combination of waterfall and agile. We taught engineers new front-end frameworks. We applied our design system. We added micro interactions such as autocomplete to make search fields more intuitive. We also designed for multiple screen sizes because that was some feedback that we got from users. And we also redesigned the information architecture based on how people wanted the system to work, not how it had worked previously. So based on our efforts over the past couple months, this is what REMIS looks like now. One of the users said it felt like I walked out of, like a window shop into like a spaceship. The results were that users are extremely happy. The onboarding time significantly went down. Now they can invest lower time in training. It used to take people a year to learn how to use the old version of REMIS. Now it's so intuitive that it's a matter of weeks to learn how it works. We built it in a way that allows for changes in the future, which is a big problem in the DoD. The development team is iterating quickly. And overall, the team just feels a lot more empowered to be resourceful and innovate now that they kind of have a direction and sense of where they want to take the product moving forward. And the results that we saw with REMIS really speak to the overall benefits of human-centered design, regardless of what type of product you're building. You get to optimize end-to-end user experience journeys. Within the REMIS application, there's multiple use cases and journeys and personas that are within that. we really thought through all the different edge cases that people go through. You get to deliver more useful, usable, and accessible products. You get to deliver products with greater speed, quality, and cost effectiveness at scale. So some of the colors that you saw are part of BESPIN's design system, which we'll talk about later. And we've seen design systems increase developer productivity by 47%. So it's pretty high. And something else that we've seen is that the highest levels of organizational performance correlate with priority on user-centered design, right? The organizations that put users at the heart of what they do end up becoming high-performing organizations. So you can decide whether that's correlation or causation, but we're seeing it a lot across a lot of the teams that we work with. And also, we're also seeing an increasing number of design-related federal mandates, such as the 21st Century IDEA. We're also seeing executive orders that prioritize customer experience as a part of funding and agencies, the metrics that agencies are measured against. But, you know, while Remus was a great example, there's hundreds of applications across the Air Force and thousands across the DoD that need that type of modernization, that need to put, you know, human-centered design at the heart of what they do. So we started thinking about ways like, how can we scale this out to every application, right? We can't work hand in hand with every single app team. We needed to find a way to scale this out, ensure that any app team can come in, get the resources they need, and improve the technology that they're building. So based on that, we had the idea to create this thing called the Design Studio, which is part of the BESPIN software factory. The vision is to design a digital Air Force that maximizes mission impact and quality of life for airmen. And you can see the parts that are bolded tied directly back to the outcomes that we want airmen to experience when they use technology that we built. Our mission is to empower the Air Force to understand and implement modern design best practices. By leveraging a lean and user-centered approach, our team of experts delivers exceptional user experiences that drive meaningful outcomes and mission success. So we're kind of connecting the dots between lean product thinking, user-centered approach, and outcomes and mission success. And a little bit about BESPIN for some of the people on this call who may not be familiar with them. BESPIN is an Air Force software factory that specializes in the development and deployment of mobile web applications, from ideation all the way through to enterprise solution. They're experts at driving applications onto Cloud One under their continuous authority to operate, their ATO, and they're providers of cost-effective, user-focused, mission-driven mobile web DevSecOps. They've existed since 2018. Over that time, they've had a big impact in the DoD. They're the first mobile and web-focused ATO. They've done a variety of STRs, SBIR 2, SBIR 3s. They've worked with 13 different small businesses, 26 apps delivered. And their capabilities or their platform is spread across a couple of different areas. So this is the BESPIN platform that you get when you work with them. As a vendor, I know it's really hard to figure out how I can get my app into production. BESPIN really gets a lot of that done for you. But a lot of the investment that we've seen in the software factory ecosystem is at the DevOps level. You know, apps can get to production faster, but there's always this thought in the back of our heads where it's like, are we just building the wrong software faster? Like, are we delivering the right things? You know, if you have a pathway to production and you have an ATO, how do we know the thing that we put out there is the right thing that should go out? And that's where we really come in with the Design Studio. So we operate at the beginning of this process and journey where we make sure that the software that's being delivered is the right software in the first place. So now you really start to see the full benefits of digital transformation, where not only are you moving into production quickly, but you're making sure that the thing that goes into production is the right thing in the first place. And to talk more about capabilities, I'm going to pass it off to Kyle.
Hey, everybody. My name is Kyle. I'm a product manager with Skylight. I've been on the Design Studio team for about a year, and I'm just going to quickly kind of go through some of the capabilities that we have, some of the services that we offer, some of the products that we offer. So to start with, there are a couple of things that we offer that are sort of more low touch, shorter engagement type services. Design workshops can be one of two things, can be problem oriented, where we kind of help you feel out your problem space, maybe prioritize and identify which are the most important problems that are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck to solve. We also offer kind of problem-solving workshops, learning workshops in addition to the problem-solving workshops that are focused on kind of learning design best practices, how to kind of run some of those exercises like prioritization or ideation or prototyping. So both problem-solving and learning-focused workshops. We also offer design sprints and intensives, which are essentially like a compacted version of the product lifecycle, where we take a look at the problem space, identify high priority problems, quickly ideate and deliver quick win type solutions for your product or service in a short time frame, typically 1 to 2 weeks. We also offer health checks, which could be either a health check on your system, which could be like a heuristic evaluation of your design, your architecture, information architecture, or even how your workflows are structured. In addition to that, we also offer team health checks just to see, what are the levels of psychological safety, other kind of key indicators of higher performing teams to make sure that your teams are at that level, or if they're not, kind of suggestions for improvement. We also offer rapid response design and development, which is essentially if you have a design or development fire with your product or service that you need taken care of quickly, the design studio has people, resources to help with those kinds of things in those kind of situations, and we're very good at it. We've been able to turn around some projects like the external site for BESPIN. We turn around in about 6 weeks, so pretty good at doing those types of things on quick timelines. So in addition, we also do content strategy, design and writing. So just looking at the content within your application or service, making sure it's geared towards the user audience. They're able to understand it. It's written in plain language and the correct voice. And also just making sure that the content aligns with the purpose of your application, that you're able to get your users to accomplish what you need them to with it, with your application or service. So these are a good kind of set of ways to just kind of dip your toes into the design world. Working with the design studio, we find that a lot of customers will start with one of these kind of quicker turn, lower touch, shorter engagements, and then kind of dive deeper into the longer engagements, which they have kind of a better view of kind of the problem space surrounding their application or service. So we'll dive into that on the next slide, just some of the kind of deeper design engagements. So service design is kind of a holistic look at your product or service or portfolio of products and services and all of the underlying and supporting processes. So it kind of goes a step further than just product or service evaluation, and looks not only at what your users are experiencing in kind of the front stage, as they call it, but also what's going on backstage to support those processes and identify the highest priority kind of pain points and things to tackle to really bring that product or service to the next level, both in terms of what it offers the users and the supporting processes around it. We also offer kind of design transformation services. So think of it almost as like design studio as a service. If you have an application, a suite of applications, a portfolio of applications or services, and are interested in injecting good design practice, or even developing your own design resources, that's definitely something that we can help with. And then in terms of user-centered product development, we definitely are specialized in doing any sort of piece of the life cycle of product development. So whether it's problem discovery, prioritization, ideation, prototyping, MVP, we can help with any or all of those phases. If you just have an idea of what you want to see implemented, or you have a problem space that you want to see explored, that's definitely something you can work with the design studio on, and we can help you get some clarity on that or get delivered whatever it is that you need. So going to the next slide, we'll talk about some of the products that the design studio offers. So in terms of design systems, I know Karthik mentioned the Remus application. We have 2 design systems, which I'll dive into in just a second, that essentially offer pre-built both design and development components to make it easy for you to build out and improve applications that you have with a consistent look and feel, with products, with components that are accessible and that are easy to implement. We also have a user experience monitoring solution that we've started to offer that is essentially a way to measure the quality and I should say quantitative and qualitatively measure your user experience, so you can make data-driven decisions on where to make improvements. We also have a series of toolkits, resources, templates for all of the different stages of the product development life cycle, which we'll see a diagram of that later, so I can kind of get into that. But we have resources across all the different phases, which we're happy to share broadly to just help, at all those different stages of the product development life cycle, whether it's doing user interviews or ideation, templates and guides on how to do all of that and how to do that successfully as teams. So let's go to the next slide here. So diving into the design system, you can kind of see an example of what maybe some of the color options and text options are on the right side there. What we're offering in the design system is kind of three things. So the first is consistency. Consistency across pages in your application, across components in your application, across multiple applications in a portfolio. Similar look and feel in terms of fonts and colors, typefaces, all that kind of stuff. And it's all reusable. So you can use the same components over and over for different applications and save yourselves a lot of time. And that's kind of where that simplicity piece comes in. All the hard work is done to build out the components that you need. And it's simply a matter, I say simply, I know there's some development work involved, but essentially your developers have ready-made components that they can plug in as needed for your use case. Additionally, the design system both design systems are accessible, so they are WCAG version 2.0 and 508 compliant, if you know what those things are. As Karthik said, there's more and more kind of regulation coming out around making things accessible. So our design systems are compliant to those standards. And if we go to the next slide, I can talk about kind of the two specific design systems that we have on offer. Material Atlas is a more content-driven design system that is multi-platform. So it works well for web and mobile solutions. And again, is very content-focused. It's based on Google's Material design system, but it's been expanded and kind of purpose-built to be an open source government-driven design system. And Carbon Forge, in contrast to that, is more for web applications because it tends to be for data-rich applications, more fields, more data visualizations, that sort of thing. And we'll look into some examples here on the next slide. So this is an example, two examples of the Material Atlas design system. You can see PCS Express on the left there, which we helped a team within BESPIN to design using components from the Material Atlas design system. You can see that's using more of a light theme, and that's specifically for like a cell phone type app. And then on the right, you can see the electronic flight bag calculator, which is used as a calculator on the flight line. Which is more geared towards being used on a tablet. And that's more of the dark theme you can see in use there for Material Atlas design system. And then on the next page, you can see these are some other screens from within Remus, which Karthik already covered in depth a little bit, but you can see it's a more data intensive application, more fields, more data being displayed, and the Carbon Forge design system works great for that. Let's go to the next slide. So we're also excited to announce that we're offering a UEM solution now for essentially monitoring and measuring your user experience, both from a qualitative perspective and a quantitative perspective. There's a couple different tools that are involved with it. But I guess suffice to say, it's measuring, analytics, doing application monitoring, and also very soon collecting real user feedback and essentially putting that all in one central dashboard for you to be able to monitor and measure whatever important metrics there are for your particular application, which we can help you figure out. But yeah, essentially it's a way to collect data about the user experience to really give you the data you need to drive decisions on how to improve your application or service. So that is we're at the point where we can start having onboarding conversations. So if that is a tool you're interested in, feel free to reach out and we can start having conversations about getting onboarded to that. And then on the next slide, just as I mentioned before, we have toolkits across the entire product development lifecycle. So whether that's the discovery phase where you're doing user interviews, We have templates and guides on how to write, user interview guides, whether it's a problem definition phase where you need to do prioritization, we have templates for that, guides for that as well. Or it's the ideation or prototyping phase where you need to do, design studio exercise to get a lot of ideas out there to, solve your highest priority problems that you want to solve. We have templates and resources for all that stuff. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out if you're interested in securing some of those resources for your teams. We've done a good job trying to curate them so that they're easy to understand and easy to use for external teams. So yeah, feel free to reach out, and got plenty of resources across that whole life cycle. And I think that is the last one for me. And I think I'll be passing it over to Liz to talk about some customer success stories.
You are. Hey, my name is Liz Fox. I get to do the fun part of this presentation because I'm a designer and these two are product nerds. So I have been working at Skylight for about 1.5 years now. I have a background in enterprise UX and a lot of knowledge about bureaucracy in general, but I came into this role with like perfect ignorance about the military and the Air Force. But this has been one of the most impactful and rewarding 1.5 year spans of my career to date. So what I'm going to do is tell you guys a bit about some of the clients that we've served over my tenure on the team. This slide gives you a whole overview of different customers that we've served, and the ones in the black outline, the ones on the top, are the ones that I'm going to talk about today. I picked these 3 case studies to share with you all because I thought that they showed a good variety of what the design studio can offer. And I think they're also really good ways of showing how we can solve problems that are very realistic, things that I think that you all are facing. I also have a tendency to be very annoying in the chat on these webinars. So if you want to throw that back at me and ask any questions while I'm talking, you are welcome to do so. All right, so first one we're going to talk about is PCS Express. PCS Express was a really fun project. We did this in collaboration with Omni Federal, which is another one of the small businesses that's part of the BESPIN ecosystem. And I wanted to talk about this one because it shows kind of what you get as just part of being part of BESPIN. So what happened with this project was Omni was trying to build out this really necessary app to help airmen PCS, which means to transfer between installations, between assignments. If you're familiar with this process, you know it is a big headache of papers and faxing things and calling people. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing this app come to fruition. The problem that the team had was that they weren't really sure how to handle a couple different competing design systems between some custom tools and some of the big SaaS platforms. And the team also needed to be like continuing to make progress actually designing the app. So they were able to come to the design studio and ask us for help with coming up with a couple different directions that they could take with design systems. What you're seeing here is a GIF that's rotating through a couple of the screens that I mocked up for them using the Material Atlas design system. So it was a nice way of giving the team a little bit of extra design firepower, and also shows the, I think, truly collaborative nature of BESPIN. It's been really fun to be able to work with other vendors this way. Okay, second one is ETIMS. This one is a little bit more standard, right? So this is somebody who comes into the BESPIN design or the BESPIN ecosystem, and they weren't really looking for design services. But when they found out that the design studio existed, they were interested in meeting with us just to get kind of, like a gut check on the usability of their app. This was another really fun team to work with. They were very enthusiastic. Really excited to get feedback. And so one of our designers, Ashton, here at Skylight, just took like a couple hours, maybe over 4 or 5 weeks of work, just met with them kind of one-on-one and gave them a bunch of verbal feedback, did a couple little mock-ups. But the big problem that they were facing was that they knew that they could improve the usability of their PDF reader specifically. ETIMS is a tool that folks use for maintaining aircraft, and there's a whole bunch of these like PDFs on there that are technical orders that show them like kind of step-by-step what they need to be doing. And they know that their users, the ETIMS team knew that their users needed to be able to have multiple of these PDFs open at the same time and also be able to like have 2 open next to each other. So they're potentially, like juggling today, maybe binders of paper. With the app, they're juggling maybe like an iPad and some sort of tools or something. So what Ashton was able to do is work with them with their existing kind of tech stack. They didn't want to use one of our material design systems or anything in Flutter because they were doing all native iOS development. So Ashton consulted with them to figure out the best use of those native iOS components, and also help them figure out a much better IA and interaction pattern for being able to handle that use case of needing to toggle between a bunch of different PDFs simultaneously. I think that they did just launch this. So this is now in use, which is very exciting. Okay, this last one is a two-parter. This last one I think is most relevant if you know that you have a really big problem, but you're not totally sure how to go about it. So for this project, the Air Force's, I think at the time it was the Equal Opportunity Office, and then transitioned over to the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Office. So they were going through some changes, some shakeups there. But they came to us saying, hey, look, we know that we have this big log of requests from our civilian employees who have disabilities and need an accommodation in the workplace in order to do their job, which is a legal right that they have. But the Air Force didn't have one sort of centralized, consolidated way of doing that. So a lot of installations had their own forms, their own paper forms that they would be doing, giving to employees to ask them to fill out. There was a program at the sort of big Air Force level that didn't really have much insight into what their disability program managers at the installation level were doing, and couldn't get accurate numbers for like funding, for example. So what we did, this was me and Ashton again, which was a lot of fun. We went and for the first round of this, we just talked to as many people as we could. We did a bunch of qualitative research. And as we researched, we built what's called a service blueprint, which is a big gnarly flow chart. You're seeing half of it here, that kind of maps out how an organization functions or dysfunctions to provide a service. And the really useful thing about a service blueprint versus like a journey map or something is that with a service blueprint, you have this concept of front stage and backstage, where on the front stage, that's the stuff that your end user, your airman, your civilian employee might see. And the backstage is all the internal processes that you want to keep invisible. So by taking this approach, we were able to help the Air Force offices that we were working with understand what their process actually looked like in reality and where the biggest opportunities and pain points were. We also used that to then generate requirements that were user-centered rather than this is what we think we need centered or engineering-centered. From there, Ashton and I were able to then move into designing UI. And so we had the challenge of needing to design some sort of essentially kind of like ticketing sort of situation. We called it an IT solution that would allow self-service by civilian employees, so they could just fill out a form anywhere they are and submit that and have it be automatically routed to the right disability program manager. And then on the back end, the disability program managers would have a table view, which is the screenshot in the front there, of all the different requests that they were responsible for. The challenge here for Ashton and I was that we needed to build this using tools already in the Air Force's tech stack. We didn't want to build something custom for them because this was something that the disability program managers were going to have to be able to maintain and update as their legal and policy requirements changed. So we ended up building that in a couple different tools that we knew that people would have access to across the Air Force. It was a really fun project, a really fun challenge, and I would love for you all to get at me, like bring me your challenges. We love doing this. This is why we're here. So just let us know how we can help.
All right, thanks for that, Liz. And then to finish things up, I'm just going to talk a little bit about how you can actually engage with the BESPIN Design Studio. So whether you're government or industry, whether you've got a legacy product, new product, an existing contract, no contract, we've got projects across the entire spectrum. If you're a government customer, you can come directly to BESPIN or us, and then we'll get you through the process. Or if you're a vendor and you want to partner with us on something and you have a user-centered design component or a research component, and you might not have the skill sets or know how to do it, you can partner with us on that, and we'll get that part of your overall proposal done for you, and we can team up on things like that. The contract vehicle that we use for this work is a Cyber Phase 3 IDIQ. And BESPIN has an interagency agreement with via MOUs. So we can really take in work from anywhere across the Air Force. We're also talking to the Navy and Army now. And the big benefit of this new IDIQ is that they permit sole source awards with no dollar, time, size standards, or work share restrictions. And it's really flexible to meet your needs, big or small. And we can do it really quickly. We can issue task orders under that within a couple of weeks. And all the terms within that IDIQ have been pre-approved by the government. So that includes staffing plans, pricing, deliverables, things like that. So it really takes a lot of that procurement and contractual overhead off of the government offices that want to work with us and also the vendors. So it's a really streamlined process. And the biggest benefit that we've seen or we've heard from our customers is that you also get no-fee BESPIN assisted acquisition support. So BESPIN Strategy and BizOps Office has a ton of great acquisitions professionals that are ready to kind of take you from where you are, get you through this process, and actually help you monitor the progress and outcomes of this over time. And compared to other contracting offices, it's going to take longer, and they might charge you a fee, which kind of takes money away from places that it should be spent. So a little bit about what the engagement process looks like. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll have an initial conversation with BESPIN's customer engagement team. At this point, we're really just trying to understand where you're at, what you're thinking, how we could be helpful. We try to be really empathetic in this step and just discover and listen to what's going on and how we can be useful to you all. After that, we'll start to narrow the focus by having a scoping discussion where you're right to start some things down, some metrics, some outcomes. And then we'll go through the paperwork process, such as establishing the MOU and other contracting paperwork that's needed. And then lastly, Skylight will create a performance work statement based on your customer goals, pain points, things that you're trying to accomplish. And then lastly, the contract is executed. And like I said on the previous slide, to create these task orders is a pretty rapid process. You'd be hard pressed to find any other contract vehicle that lets you get started as quickly as we can help you get started. And a couple more pieces of information before we kick things off to Q&A. BESPIN is having an engagement day in case you all would like to attend that. It will be on March 6th from 9:30 to 12:30 p.m. Central Time. Physically, it'll be located at the MGM Works building in Montgomery, Alabama, but there will also be a virtual component as well. If you'd like more information on that, the email address to get info is info@teambespin.us. And I'll be sharing these slides after as well, so you can register after the fact. And then lastly, if you're interested in working with us, whether you're a government customer, a vendor partner, or just want to help us, further the mission of improving user experience within the Air Force, reach out to any of us. Myself, Karthik, I'm the VP of Defense Services. You all met Kyle, who's a senior product manager, Liz, who's our designer. And then also one of our key stakeholders is Lieutenant Colonel Tyler Huff, who's currently the COO of BESPIN. And you can either reach Skylight or BESPIN at the following emails, but the process will be either the same. Either way, we'll get you through that customer engagement team and then kick things off to see where things are at. And then also, if you just wanted access to any of the resources that we shared previously, feel free to reach out to us. Again, we're very mission focused. We want to improve user experience because we've seen the impact that it can have on the lives of airmen. And we're happy to share resources, knowledge, or just do virtual coffees to learn where things are at with you all and see how we can be of help. With that, I will open it up to Q&A if anyone has any questions about anything that was presented, any ideas, or really anything else that's on top of your mind for you.
Hey, Karthik, this is Colonel Huff. I just wanted to jump into the collective group here and say, wonderful job putting this together. We really appreciate the information that you're sharing about BESPIN. As a whole, there's a lot of services within BESPIN, but specifically the design studio piece. There's a lot of emphasis across the Department of Defense to improve how our systems actually make service members' lives better. and not be such a painful process. And so you guys have done a tremendous job for BESPIN with the Skylight efforts there. So I just want to give my support to this team, and then also, make sure everyone sees my face and knows I'm available to help answer questions and enable anyone who's interested in making things right for your services or your applications. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for those kind words. Any questions anyone has, feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and give us your most difficult ones. I know Liz loves a challenge over here. Yeah, Ashley, thanks for your feedback. Ashley in the chat said she would love to see the advancement of consistent design systems across the Air Force and look forward to collaborative work on that moving forward. Absolutely. At this point, we've got Kessler Run's UI and then our 2 BESPIN design systems. We're just scratching the surface of all the different use cases that we need to be supporting. But the quicker that we can start driving towards that consistent look and feel, and airmen start to have consistent user experiences, it's going to give us a solid foundation that we can build upon as we discover more use cases and more needs.
Who's Colt Whittle and why do we care about him?
That nerd.
You want to check that one?
Yeah, so Colt Whittle, is the Air Force's Chief Experience Officer. He has been I know I say everything is fun, but I really like my job. He's been a really fun partner to work with at BESPIN. We've had the opportunity to work with him on a couple different things, and actually the My PCS and PCS Express and reasonable accommodation request projects came to us through him. He's doing some really cool work. He also, if you're interested in UX and you want to just have access to a community of designers and design-oriented people and researchers, he's got a UX community of interest Slack group that's very worth joining. If you want to hit us up at Skylight or at BESPIN, we can send you information on how to join that.
All right, looks like there's no other questions that came in. So again, thank you everyone for your time. We really appreciate you all attending. Like Liz said, we really care about this stuff. Like we've seen the impact that great user experience can have. We're just scratching the surface. We really want to make these tools available to you all and help you all in your design efforts as well. So feel free to reach out to any of us and then we'll get you the resources you need or figure out how we can work closer together on some of this cool stuff. Well, hopefully y'all have a great Thursday and hopefully we'll be in touch soon. Thanks.